So the final plague came about. Well, not came about, it's about to come about. But it'll be different from all the other plagues. So listen carefully. And this is how the children of Israel were essentially vomited, if it would be a good way to describe it. That's how sudden it happened. They were rejected, pushed out of the land of Egypt. Good morning. Chapter 12. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. So this is how the calendar is going to start for you. It shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb. So on the first month, the 10th day of the month, because this is going to be something they're going to do all the time. But how about I just let the word do the describing and just follow along. Verse 3. Speak unto the children of the congregation, speak unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of the month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. In other words, if the house is too small and there's not enough people to share the lamb, get more people to share the lamb with your neighbor, in other words. Okay, verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out of the sheep or of the goats. It could either be a lamb or a goat. But it had to be a male of the first year with no blemish. There couldn't be anything wrong with it. And ye shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. So for 4 days you're going to keep this lamb in the house with you. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper doorpost of the houses wherein they shall eat it. Make sense? So they're going to kill this lamb after they had it in the house for 4 days. It had to be a male or a goat with no blemish. Then they're going to kill it, and then they have to with a brush they have to spread the blood not only on the upper mantle, but also on the side posts of the house. So that's the ritual that they had to do, and I'll explain you why shortly. Verse 8. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with the bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw, so you got to cook it thoroughly, nor sodden at all with water. So you can't boil the lamb; it has to be but roast with fire. His head with his legs and with the pertinence thereof, with the internals, from what I understand. Let me verify that. Yeah, and all the inward parts. You're going to roast this thing whole. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning. And that which remaineth of it until the morning ye shall burn with fire. And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and the staff in your hand. So not only are you going to roast this thing whole, it has to be a male, or within 1 year, a sheep, a lamb, or goat. You're gonna brush the blood on top of around the door on the lintel, and then you're gonna eat this thing dressed. You're gonna have your dresses on, your shoes on, and your staff, because they were shepherds at the time. Verse 11. Let's reread it again. And thou shalt eat it, and thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat in it. And eat it in haste. So you got to eat it in a hurry on top of it all. It is the Lord's Passover. So this essentially what the Passover is. It's much changed since the very first one, but it was essentially a sacrifice, an animal sacrifice that had to be done so that their lives may be saved. This is essentially a type and shadow of what was to come in the future. But let's not digress in regards to that, because there's plenty more here where you guys are going to learn from. Verse 12 of chapter 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. So that's what this blood sign on the sign posts of the house and the upper mantle were for. It was a sign to God to pass over that house so that he wouldn't kill the firstborn in that house. And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. Ye shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever. And this is why the Jews to this day still celebrate the Passover. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first, now this is describing what the ritual is essentially going to become once they get into their promised land and what they're going to have to do. But as far as getting out of Egypt, we already talked about that. So again, verse 14, and this day shall ye, verse 15, 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. He's talking about the whole multitude of people that were taken out of the land of Egypt. It's not talking about armies per se, as in armies as we know armies today. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at even ye shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at even. So from the 14th day of the month to the 21st day of the month, you guys are going to eat unleavened bread. 7 days shall there be no leaven in your houses, for whosoever eateth that which is leavened, even that soul shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he be a stranger or born in the land. Ye shall eat nothing leavened. It bears repeating. This is the third time he's talking about this. In all your habitations shall ye eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel, and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop, and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the 2 side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of this house until the morning. Stay inside. For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the 2 side posts, the Lord will pass over the door, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. And ye shall observe this thing for an ordinance to thee and thy sons forever. And it shall come to pass, when ye be come to the land which the Lord will give you, according as he hath promised to who? Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that ye shall keep the service. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, What mean ye by this service? That ye shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians, and delivered our houses. And the people bowed and heard, and they bowed the head and worshipped. Now, I know that some people may think that this is fable, but as you observe around you what the Jews still do to this day, first of all, the Jews exist, so it's not exactly a fable, because the Jews of then are still the Jews of today. They are the children of Israel. Who is Israel? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, essentially, is Israel. And he had 12 children, and all the Jews that you see today are the descendants of that first family. And this ordinance that you see the Jews observing today, it is still the ordinance that it was ordained by God through Moses. If this is not proof to you that this book is real, I don't know. There's more evidence to come. Don't worry. It's not necessarily just about what's written in the book, because the book was written by men, yeah, but it was inspired by God. But let's not digress and continue on chapter 12. Verse 28, And the children of Israel went away and did as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne, unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. He killed all the firstborns. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, and there was not a house where there was not one dead. There was literally death in every house, whether it be a boy or girl, the firstborn, and of cattle as well. And he called for Moses and Aaron by night, and said, Rise up, and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord, as ye have said. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, and be gone. And bless me also, while you're at it. Also take your flocks and your herds, as ye have said, as ye have said, and be gone, and bless me also. Sorry, I just reread verse 32. 33, And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people. This is in the middle of the night, that they might send them out of the land in haste, in a hurry. For they said, We be all dead men. Verse 34, And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading trough being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, clothing. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required. So the Jews went to the Egyptians, okay, we're going to need this, that, and the other. And the Egyptians just gave and gave and gave. And they spoiled and that's how they ended up spoiling spoiled meaning not didn't spoil as we know spoil. In other words, they robbed, for lack of a better term. But it was ordained by God. Verse 37, And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot. There were men besides children. If there were 600,000 men besides children, that means that there was at least about that many women. 600,000 women. It's already 1.2 million. That's besides the children. So there had to be at least a couple of million people besides. But let me continue to read. And a mixed multitude went up also with them. It wasn't just the children of Israel. Some Egyptians looks like left as well. And flocks and herds, very much cattle. And they baked unleavened cakes of the dough which they brought forth out of Egypt, Wow, they must have done this in the desert. For it was not leavened, because they were thrust out of Egypt, and could not tarry, neither had they prepared for themselves any victuals, or food supplies. That's what victuals means. Now the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. So from the moment that Joseph brought the children of Israel and his father and his brothers from the land of Canaan into Egypt to the day that they left was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 430 years, even the self same day, it came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. On the very same day, after 430 years, they were thrust out of the land. It is a night to be much observed unto the Lord for bringing them out from the land of Egypt. This is that night of the Lord to be observed of all the children of Israel in their generations. And the Lord said unto Moses and Aaron, This is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised them, then shall he eat thereof. A foreigner and a hired servant shall not eat thereof. In one house shall it be eaten. Thou shalt not carry forth out of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall you break a bone thereof. As you talked about earlier, they couldn't break the bones of this animal. It had to be roasted whole, and whatever was left over, they had to burn with fire. And unless you were circumcised, now strangers and a stranger could not eat this, and a sojourner could not eat this. But if you were a hired hand, if you were bought with money and you were a servant of the Jews, you had to be circumcised still if you were to keep the Passover. And we move on to verse 47. And the congregation of Israel shall keep it. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. And when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised. That had to be, that you couldn't have partake in the Passover unless you were circumcised. And then let him come near and keep it. And he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that is sojourneth among you. Thus did all the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so did they. And it came to pass the selfsame day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. And that, brothers and sisters, how the children of Israel managed to grow. Now, understand that this is a kingdom building book, essentially, what the story is about. The Lord had made a promise to Abraham that he was going to give him the land of Canaan, and his seed was going to be multiplied as the sand of the sea, the sand upon beaches that could not be numbered. He made that same promise to Isaac, Abraham's son, and Jacob, who became Israel. And in this particular instance, when they were in the land of Egypt for 430 years, how this promise that they were going to be multiplied like the sand of the sea was fulfilled. Hence the reason why they became millions in 430 years. They only essentially, I don't know exactly how it happened. I'm guessing they married their cousins and and some Egyptians as well, I guess, because some of the Egyptians also left it with them. And that concludes, brothers and sisters, chapter 12 of the book of Exodus, and how the Passover was ordained and how they ended up getting out of the land of Egypt. But there's more to come. They're not just going to go into their promised land, as you will find out shortly. And hopefully this video was of help to you. If you have any questions or comments, by all means, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. If you like this video and it was helpful to you, share it with your friends. And peace of the Lord be with you, and I will see you next time.